Good morning and welcome to today's YouTube Live. If you can see me and hear me, could you just tap the chat box and type in yes? Okay, thank you. So, our session today is on the shadow self. The term shadow was brought to us by the psychoanalyst Carl Jung. He was part of the process for him for personality was to understand the different archetypes that make up our whole self. He believed that we were fragmented and every single one of the eight major archetypes contributed to our personality based on the situation that we found ourselves in. And the different archetypes included the shadow, the persona, the self, the hero, the anima, animus, wise old man, and trickster. Out of all of them, the two that we are going to concern ourselves with today is firstly the persona and then, of course, the shadow self. So, the persona is what we want to be seen by the world as. It is what we wish that we were. Whereas the shadow is that part of our personality which we are repressing. It is our instincts or impulses, certain triggers or weaknesses, something that we get embarrassed by and we do not want to accept. So, essentially speaking, the shadow self is the repressed and hidden part of yourself, so to say, the dark side, which you get embarrassed to accept as being part of you. You may consider it ugly, or you may simply consider it frightening. Uh, because it is uncomfortable to deal with, you tend to repress it. And because you repress it, you end up with a whole lot of other issues. So, for an example, for how you are repressing a certain part of yourself, let's take the statement, I am not a killer. Would you agree with that? Yes, most of us would agree that you would not want to be seen as a killer. But at some level, you know that you are capable of killing, whether it is to protect your loved ones or it is, to kill mosquitoes or cockroaches. The point is that though this example may be a little general, what you have to understand is all the traits that are in existence are part of you and your human experience. You tend to accept certain traits as good and certain traits as bad. And that is where you create this difference between your persona and your shadow self. Because you want only to accept the positive traits or what you consider or society considers the good traits, you tend to repress the ones which are not quite as comfortable to deal with. That is where the building blocks of your shadow self come up. And over a period of time, your shadow self can develop into a huge aspect of your unconscious mind or your id. And since we know that the subconscious mind tends to regulate us in many many different ways which we don't really even understand, it is important that we not ignore the shadow self. Because if you ignore your shadow self, you're opening yourself up to these effects of having a poor self esteem, having a sense of anxiety, but not knowing where it's coming from. You may also be opening yourself up to a lot of self sabotage because subconsciously you do not believe that you deserve the good that is coming to you. You may also struggle with relationships because uh, your own relationship with your own self, between the persona and the shadow, is at odds, and you are unable to reconcile that, and that drifts over into your relationships with other people as well. And there is also, of course, the danger of an inflated ego and self absorption, which will cause you confusion because you think that you're fantastic, you think you're the persona, but you are ignoring the shadow, and those weaknesses and those traits are definitely a part of you. So you shouldn't ignore your shadow self. Uncovering the shadow is what we are talking about today. And the process of understanding your shadow self and integrating it with your remaining personality is known as shadow work. Shadow work can be done with a lot of different tools, one of which we will be sharing in the Seekers Club this month, and that will be our free offering for the month, starting on 9th of September for a week. However, I'm going to talk about the other aspects that you can use as well. Now, when you commit to shadow work, you are committing to uncovering these unsavory traits or weaknesses or triggers or embarrassment that you feel or you find in your fractured self. And this can only be done if you're very, very honest with yourself about what you are actually hiding behind your persona. This takes a lot of courage because to be honest with yourself is more difficult than it is to be honest with other people. And we are past masters at hiding the truth from ourselves because we have been repressing those traits and those feelings, the triggers for so long that we believe our lies. We believe that we have, everything fantastic going on and there is no problem and there is no issue. So, how do you start uncovering your shadow self? I'm just going to take a few points over here. The first is to become a curious observer. When you do something and you feel that something's gone wrong or something's been triggered, why don't you just take a step back and observe whatever has happened? Follow the chain of events, see the sequence that followed, the people, the situation, what exactly caused you to act in a certain way which you felt was undesirable. And as you move from there, you'll be able to uncover small traits if you are completely honest with yourself. Moving on, you have to practice non judgment. This is the second point. And being judgmental comes from the mirror that you see. If you are judgmental towards another person because of the behavior that they are expressing, it means that there is some part of that behavior that you resonate with. So, for instance, if there is a person who is not punctual and does not value their time or your time because of whatever meetings that they come late to, it transpires that you may also be doing a similar tardy act somewhere else in your life. It may not be at work because you're very punctual at work, but maybe you are tardy when you have to go and meet friends. So, if you're judging this other person, it means there is some part of that trait that is also part of your personality and that triggers you or embarrasses you. So, practice non judgment towards others as well as towards yourself. Accept whatever trait is there. That is again part of the integration process for bringing all these different fractured parts of your shadow into your personality. The third is meditation. Here we are not speaking about the different forms of meditation that you use, but specifically shadow work meditation, where you sit with your thoughts and try and understand what is the trigger for you, What are the things that you feel good with? What are the things that make you feel bad, upset, angry, guilty? All the undesirable emotions. Think back to events where you have experienced these, and then try and figure out how this is part of your shadow self. Where did it come from originally? Most of the shadow traits, repressions, can be traced to your childhood, to someone in authority giving you this particular script which you are still running to date. The fourth point is trying past life regression. So, again, the shadow is not just restricted to events and situations and people that you may have encountered in this life, it also takes into account the karmic as well as the past life triggers that you may have accumulated in your soul over so many past lives. So, having a PLR session with the specific purpose of uncovering these traits or your shadow self can help with this as well. And the fifth and final point is shadow journaling. Now, this is what we are going to offer as our September free offering for Seekers Club. Shadow journaling is essentially putting together a set of questions and journaling through them every day to try and uncover certain hidden or repressed aspects of yourself. So, from 9th September for a week, I will be sharing a prompt in the group, and you are most welcome to use these prompts for the shadow journaling work and try and uncover your shadow self. And now I'm open to any questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box. I'll be taking question answers for 5 minutes. If we have any, please go ahead and type them out here. I'm not sure if there is an issue with the chat, but if you have a question and you can't get to it on YouTube, please go ahead and type it in the Seekers Club, and I'll be happy to check over there in the WhatsApp group. And okay, we are getting the questions now. Is my shadow real me? Okay, so like I mentioned, there are 8 different archetypes which are part of the real me, and the shadow is part of them. So, definitely, yes, the shadow is one part of you, and the only thing is that you are repressing it, so that's causing you trouble. And to have a whole integrated personality, you need to understand your shadow, uncover the triggers, and integrate it into your whole personality self. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Uh, Devina, will we cover all these 5 points? No, for the free offering that we have in Seekers Club, we are only going to do shadow journaling. The other 5 points you can work on your own, or if you feel that it is something that you would like to cover, we can probably have a full workshop on this for about 3-4 hours. That can be done later on. I'm not clear about my being. Okay. So, could you elaborate on this? Like, are you talking about the spiritual aspect of your being and your soul, or are you talking about your own personality? Could you please elaborate on this? You have mixed thoughts. Okay. mixed thoughts about who you are or what your personality is, or mixed thoughts at a higher level of a higher self, and trying to figure out your life purpose, or what is it that you have mixed thoughts about? That at times positive and at times negative. But that is natural because, like I said, it's the persona and the shadow. The persona is all your positive traits and how you wish to be seen by the world, whereas the shadow is about the negative traits and what you want to repress and hide from the world. So, both of these are part of you, and you have to accept both parts of them because combined they create your being. I hope that helps. Most welcome. All right, so our time is up, and I will be open to answering any questions you have in the Seekers Club. But I'm ending the stream here now. And thank you so much, everyone who attended.